POQs, PVC queues, and now ATM queues. And the $1 million question is, January 31st deadline to be or not to be? We have an expert in the studio to talk about the new NAIRA notes and the January 31 deadline by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And when we say January 31, a lot of people will think we have so many days to go. No, we just have barely 3 days, let me say 2 working days. Monday, 31st is on a Tuesday. So banks have decided to work on Saturday and on Sunday. But will that cushion the effect? That's the major question. We have in the studio with us our guest is Onyekbere. He's a financial analyst. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the program.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Well, I asked the question, January 31 deadline to be or not to be. What is your own perspective with this whole drama going on in the country?
Well, it's a big surprise that the central bank is still insisting on the sanctity of the 31st. Today is Saturday. We are discussing Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, 3 days from now. And using such hackneyed phrases like no going back, I'm sorry to disappoint you. You've had 3 months to deposit money. You've not done that. But I think it's a flight from reality, because we have a scenario where people are being asked to deposit their old money. They deposit the old money in the hope that they will withdraw new money. And they are giving back the old money they deposited. So it's not about how long people have had to deposit the old money. It is about the availability of the new notes. For instance, on Friday, yesterday, I wanted to have a little cash on my hand. I sent my staff to go to the bank to go and withdraw money. They gave him mint old 500 Naira notes. In fact, I have it in my pocket. I can even display it here. Mint old 500 Naira notes printed in 2018. Now, you were giving out from Access Bank precisely. You were giving out old 500 Naira notes on a Friday, when on Tuesday you were going to phase it out. Who does that? It's a flight from reality. So if Mr. Godwin Emefiele and his team insists on rendering people's hard work and savings useless by Tuesday, it's up to Nigerians to decide how to react, because I think it's a flight from reality. I'm not discussing what somebody told me. I am discussing what I witnessed yesterday. I even had to call the bank and they confirmed that's all they had. All right?
Yeah.
Even at their ATM, they were disbursing old notes. So who is fooling who? If the banks don't have access to the money, how are they going to disburse it? If the CBN is holding on to the money, you know, we are told stories of, oh, banks don't want to come and collect monies. Does that add up? Yeah, these are stories for the Marines. Okay, so we can't continue running this kind of central banking system that is devoid of reason. Powers are given to institutions and authorities for the common good. Nobody is given power in a vacuum. The power and authority to run monetary policy is for the common good of Nigerians. It's for the growth of our economy. It's for our survival. And not for the personal aggrandizement of anybody, whether CBN governor, whether a board member of the CBN, or even Mr. President or anybody at all. Not even that. Now, what tells you that something is not adding up? The National Assembly have been summoning Mr. Emefiele over a month now. And for one reason or the other, he's been avoiding going to explain himself and what he's doing. Come on, what exactly is happening? Did Mr. Emefiele and his team, were they subjected to an election? Did they stand elections? They were appointed.
So
and
that leads us to the question, who is he answerable to? Since you said they were appointed.
Yeah.
Is he answerable to the presidency or to the National Assembly?
He's answerable to the president. Okay? And to the, in fact, he's answerable to the Nigerian people.
Yeah.
He doesn't work for himself. He's our employee. The president merely appointed him as somebody we give our votes. So he must respond to the yearnings of Nigerians. There is no superior knowledge. There's nothing he has beyond each and every one of us. He is our servant. And he cannot continue, because if you look at the way he speaks, there's this imperial arrogance. There's this unbecoming attitude. I'm sorry to disappoint you. You know, there's that feeling of a condescending way he talks down on Nigerians. And what is happening to some of us is not a surprise. If you recall, Mr. Emefiele went and bought form to contest APC presidential primaries, if you recall. Yeah. It took the last minute intervention of the president, who said, well, for those of you on my team, you resign before you go ahead, leading to some ministers and others to resign. And this was done in desecration of the law. The CBN Act, in accordance with international norms, everywhere in the world, the CBN is supposed to be an independent, autonomous institution, so that it is not influenced in its policies by any form of partisanship or any form of interest beyond the common good. And for you to qualify to pick up a form in any party to become their president, you must have been a card-carrying member for not less than a year or two. And he took that last-minute deal before he now stopped. And when reporters cornered him when he left the president's office on that day and asked him what is going on, he said Nigeria should go and have a heartache. If you remember very well, he didn't apologize. So there's this unbecoming arrogance about our mayor servant, our mayor appointee. So that date can only hold if he is able with his team to mop up all the old notes and stop issuing them out, so that everybody will have access to the new note. But for somebody to be given an old note as at yesterday, that doesn't show they're serious. They're not serious.
All right. Okay. So do you see the extension of that deadline? And if there's no extension, what do you think will be the consequence?
There must have to be an extension. It is not a matter of choice. People should not beg him. He must extend it. It must be extended. Because if that is not done, millions of Nigerians are going to lose money they earned legitimately. They did not steal the money. Not everybody stays in Abuja or in Lagos, has a good phone like you have in your hands, and can do the transfers. There are people in the villages with piggy banks under their beds, with banks, commercial banks, 100, 200 kilometers away. Okay? What opportunities have they had? It's in the last 1 week that he says he's doing currency swap. He's sending people to the villages, and he's limiting it to 10,000 naira. And that if you have more than 10,000, even with the 10,000, there's the KYC, know your customer, you have to bring your TIN, you have to bring your, what is BVN, all those things. How many people really have it in those villages? I mean, what I'm saying, if he's insistent and people lose their money, has ends to it, I wouldn't lose a couple of mine. It is up to those who have lost money because of the ineptitude and arrogance of the CBN team to decide on what measures they have to take, legal measures, legitimate measures, court processes, barricading the CBN, sit in. I mean, this man that is so full of himself saying no going back, simply because he had the DSS wanted to arrest him. He nearly peed on his pants. He couldn't even come back to Nigeria. Okay. Excuse me. It's insulting. It's insulting when you hear no going back. This is the kind of things we used to hear under military dictatorship.
Yes.
And I suffered, and I was already a lawyer by then. I already knew we fought military dictatorship, only to come back for one civilian who did not even, is not even Mr. President talking. He's not even somebody who stood elections. I am angry and pissed off because Nigerians are already suffering. Look at the fuel queues all over the place. And you want to add to our burden. It has already reached us here. So we can't tolerate any more person adding one more. We need somebody to alleviate. Let my people go. Let the suffering be lessened. And not for one man. I'm sorry. Maybe you guys felt I was being raw. But that's the way I feel, and I have no apologies over it.
Okay, while we wait for this video from the House of Representatives, the Speaker of the House is threatening to issue warrant arrest on Mr.
They shouldn't threaten, they should arrest him.
While we wait for that clip, if it's ready, please let's have that clip on.
Sense of responsibility, Mr. Speaker, the committee was unfortunately dismayed by the absence, not just absence, flagrant refusal on the part of the central bank to make appearance. The governor was not there, and no other person came from the central bank in place of the governor. So it was like yesterday, the meeting of my committee sat with nobody coming to appear before the honorable committee of this important house.
Requested that we respectfully convey his inability to honor the invitation of on the scheduled date. The governor regrets this and requests that the chairman and members of the committee be informed accordingly. The refusal by the CBN or managing directors to heed the invitation by the House of Representatives is evidence of a blatant disregard for the well-being of the Nigerian people who are their customers. It is also an insult to the authority and prerogatives of the People's Parliament. Therefore, if by the end of today there is further disregard to the summons of this House, I will, without hesitation, and pursuant to the authority conferred by Section 89(1)(d) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Order 1921 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives, not hesitate to issue a warrant to the Inspector General of the Nigerian Police to compel the attendance of the CBN and or managing directors who fail, refuse, or neglect to respond to the summons by the House of Representatives. This matter will be concluded, must be concluded today. Unfortunately, gentlemen, please, it is a sacrifice. We're supposed to, the Senate has gone on break yesterday. We're supposed to close the House today so that everybody can run prepare for elections in 4 weeks. But we may need to make a day or a couple of days sacrifice. So instead of adjourning this House till the February 28th today, just to make sure we resolve this issue, we might need to come back Tuesday morning. Thank you.
Asking, do you see all of this as a political witch hunt? Where is it coming from?
Who is witch hunting who? A man at the helm of an institution that was legally granted independence decided to desecrate that independence through partisanship. And now he is being invited by the representatives of the Nigerian people in parliament, and he has deliberately failed, refused and neglected to answer the summons. The legislature is right constitutionally for the Speaker to sign a warrant authorizing the Inspector General to arrest him and bring him before the House on at the appointed day and hour. There is no witch hunt. He was the one who left the hallowed portals of the CBN. You recall that there was this challenge where NEC is saying, we used to keep sensitive materials at CBN. Now the CBN governor is partisan, was the guarantee. So indeed, by nursing that intent and making it public that he wants to be president of Nigeria while refusing to resign as CBN governor, that was the day he lost the moral and legal and legitimate authority to continue sitting as a CBN governor. I dare say Mr. Godwin Emefiele is no longer a fit and proper person to occupy that seat. So there's no question of witch hunt. He is the one trying to witch hunt Nigerian people by refusing to answer to the authorities. What the House is doing is constitutional.
Yeah.
They are exercising powers granted them by the Constitution. And the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Section 130, any law or policy which is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution is null and void to the extent of that inconsistency. So under what shibboleth is he hiding?
But the CBN said they have enough and they've distributed enough to banks.
And
so are we holding the Apex Bank responsible, or we are holding commercial banks responsible?
I am holding the CBN responsible. They are the ones that the law gave authority and power. You want to believe that? You could believe that you are discussing with Pope Francis or whichever Pope that is in charge. I could very well tell you I'm the Pope if you want to believe that. You look at the antecedents of what they're doing. Why will the banks insist on disbursing this old note if they had a new note? Since over the last 3 months, the idea was that if any old note entered the banking system,
they
will take it to CBN and it doesn't reappear again. Where are these new notes appearing from? Where are these notes appearing from? Are the banks being accused of printing the money themselves? Is it not from CBN? So this issue of having enough is a bloody lie.
And you don't think the banks
I don't believe them. It's a lie from the pit of hell. That's treating us as if we are children.
Okay.
What will the banks be doing with their own new money? What will be their incentive to hoard the new money? For them to hoard the new money and be paying you the old money, that means they still have bundles and bundles of the old money. Is there no system for CBN to determine the quantum of cash of the old money in the hands of the banks and order them? Is the CBN not the regulator? Is it not in a position to say, Access Bank, Zenith Bank, First Bank, in the next 48 hours, I know you have so much bunch of old notes, I need them, or else you pay a heavy fine.
Well, following that, the request of the House, bank officials, commercial banks, appeared before the House of Representatives on Thursday, and most of them, some of them were of the opinion that they have 10% of what was given to them. Some were of the opinion that they got like 10 million, and 10 million distributed to locations in states across the Federation, particular states, and was not enough. So that leaves me with a question, like you asked, who is fooling who?
The CBN wants to take Nigerians for a ride. And that's why, without even getting to know what these people said, I was emphatic. Why would a bank keep new notes and be disbursing the old ones? Listen, on 23rd or thereabouts, when I went for Christmas, I went to pick up some cash. Yes, you could say, oh, you could do transfers. I was going to my village. And I had instances where I could give some people 5,000, 10,000, some poor old men or anybody coming around me. I didn't have to insist I need to do transfer. And on that day, at the bank, they said they ran short of cash. That particular bank, across the whole of Owerri. No matter what you wrote on your checkbook, you couldn't pick more than 50K. And so who is telling us this story that there is so much money in the system? That's not true. Privately, some of the bankers I've spoken to are saying that the CBN is not meeting the demand. And mind you, look at the challenge I foresee. Even if you say, bring all the old notes you have, I bring $1 billion, and you're only giving me 100 million or 2. You know the implication. If for any reason, customers enter a money deposit bank to take their money, and there is no crowd, first 1 hour, the cashiers and the managers keep playing, second 1 hour, third 1 hour, people are going to hold others by the scruffle of the neck, say, I have money here, give me my money. And if per chance, for any reason, they manage to hold those people off, and the news gets around, I went to Bank A, and they could not pay me my money. It happens in Lagos, about anything. The following day, there will be a run on that bank. And nobody will, the banking is deposit withdrawal. If only withdrawal, if you have 50 million customers and 20 to 25 million are coming to withdraw, that bank will collapse. So it's not true. They don't have enough. CBN is not giving them enough.
Okay, there's this part that actually interests me. They said 281 billion naira was spent, printing these new notes. I'd like to know what effect it has on our financial and on our economy, using 281 billion naira to print notes.
What quantity of new notes did they tell us they printed?
Well,
They had ordered for 500.
500 billion.
Yeah, thousand.
No.
Million.
Should be billion.
Million.
Then that doesn't
Prints.
add up.
No,
Yeah,
hold on. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I cannot comment on the price of an item or a good or service if I don't know the quantity. Now, if they printed only 500 billion, when they were discussing that 2-point-something trillion was outside the banking system, it still doesn't add up.
Exactly.
So the money you print must be equal to the money you know is in circulation. Although not everybody wants cash immediately, but at least you must print to meet the demand. You may not necessarily print that quantity. You must print to meet the demand.
Yeah.
But what we are seeing is that the old notes are everywhere. And the marvelous thing about, the thing that is even funny is that all the old notes we are getting now are looking like mint. Just like they came in brand new.
So it looks like the one that they returned, that people are returning.
2017, 2018, 2016, most of them are coming brand new, untouched. In fact, the one they gave me looks is 2018. Brand new, untouched.
I saw 200 naira for 2003.
Brand new.
Yes, 200 naira for 2003.
Which,
brand new.
Which means maybe somebody is keeping it aside.
Yes,
somewhere.
has been keeping it. Yes. So, but let's correct that. I think the pieces they had ordered for was 500 million pieces of new notes. 500 million pieces.
Okay, which is in various denominations.
Yes, denomination, because that was by the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Aisha Ahmed, who appeared before the House. But the report on commercial banks who appeared before the House of Representatives is ready. Let's get to listen to them and take our decision on that too. Bank officials appeared before the House at a committee following invitation by the lawmakers. They took turns to narrate their story. They noted that they get allocation of the new NAIRA note from the CBN and dispense same to the customers through the automatic teller machines. But they are not comfortable with the stress customers go through. They say the January 31 deadline by the Apex Bank is sacrosanct.
Basically, what they are only trying to do to actually improve on our e-channels, this is to withdraw, like you said, transfers and all that. So I don't think they directed any bank to start swapping currency. For me, I have not received that kind of direction.
Now we're collecting the monies as quickly as we can from the central bank, and we're loading them into our ATMs as quickly as we get the money. Unfortunately, we have not been able to get as much money as we deposited in the central bank. And just to give it a bit of perspective, we've gotten about 10%.
You are representatives of the Nigerian people, Mr. Chairman. You are in a better position to say whether it is fair to Nigerians or otherwise for this exercise to stop on the 31st.
They revealed that the new NAIRA notes can only be accessed through the ATM and not over the counter.
For locations where the farmers cannot come out and bring those money to meet the time, you have the agents, the sub-agents going to meet them and collect these monies and bring out.
However, the response of the bank representatives did not go down well with the lawmakers, who expressed disappointment that there was no straight figures as the new money is distributed to banks.
The central bank is further reiterating their failure not to respect the representation or the representatives of the people of Nigeria.
That can stop banks from collecting old note, despite it used to be a legal tender, is either is stolen, either is mutilated, or is at the same time what? Is at the same time lost.
No answer to this. I will quote the CBN on record what they said about you, the banks. We have the records.
Very disappointed that the people, the custodians of data, and with the best analysts in the industry, came here all today unprepared.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives had threatened to issue a warrant of arrest if the CBN governor fails to appear before the House next week Tuesday. From the National Assembly, Grace Ikesi, Robert News 24. That's deep breath.
Yes.
So, my take from what I heard is that the banks have only been given, the only figure that struck me, the banks have only been given 10% of what the old notes they deposited. So if you put in $1 billion, you've been given 100 million. So clearly, that accounts for the scenario, and that cannot be the fault of the banks. I suppose the banks are being a bit diplomatic and being nice, considering the overbearing regulatory powers of the CBN, who could just wake up and slam very huge billions in fines against them. And the way it is like they don't even have a recourse or a channel to where they can appeal. Unless you are going through the court system, which will take so long. And if a regulator like CBN wants to clamp down on you, before you even move your motions, the bank is down. So no managing director will clearly come out to say Mr. Emefiele is lying. But from the statistics, the CBN is lying. Because I cannot fathom the excuse or the reason why a bank will keep new notes and be disbursing old notes is supposed to have taken back. So if you have deposited $1 billion and you are only giving 10%, and you must run your day-to-day business, are you encouraged even to go and deposit further? And that's why I said, if for any reason people want to withdraw their money from the deposit bank and they cannot, that bank is gone. Once the news circulates these days with social media, hey, this ABC bank cannot pay, people, there will be a run. Nobody will deposit. Everybody will say, I beg, let's get this money before the bank is falling. Let's see what we can get before the thing falls down. And that would be a disaster.
Did you also listen to the lawmaker who said, I will tell you what the CBN is saying? You.
Yeah, but I didn't hear what the CBN said.
So could you be? I didn't want to.
Did you hear? Did you hear beyond the? You see, when there are 10 witnesses in a room,
don't you foresee sabotage here?
No, I don't for sabotage for what? And I'm saying if there's a sabotage of the system, it's the leadership of the CBN that has already tried to sabotage itself by becoming partisan. When two people are talking to you, stating their sides of the case, if you are the judge, you should think through. If you say, I want to sabotage you, many things will be going on in my mind. Why would I sabotage you? Have I known you before? Are we from the same place? Is there any property we are dragging? What exactly? What will the banks gain from sabotaging their regulator? And not just one bank, not just two. All of them conspired, had a meeting, and have a purpose that is at variance with their regulator. Not even one person among them said no at their meeting and reported to the regulator or reported to Nigerians. No, please. You know, we are all adults. There are stories you tell to babies. Even these days,
so
babies...
This is not part of the story.
Even these days, babies are becoming, most of the times, what they did in our time, babies are now talking at very early age. They'll tell you, Mommy, it's a lie.
All right, okay, there's this other policy that we are not looking at, that's the cash withdrawal limit, that CBN. What's your own take on the cash withdrawal limit in sync with this new NAIRA notes?
I think nothing has changed. They tried to reduce it, people shouted, and they took it back where it was, right? It's nothing new. I mean, the idea of encouraging a cashless society, it should be encouraged, but the important thing is that more and more channels where people can go cashless.
Is it not part of the cashless policy?
Yeah, beyond the cities, should be opened up. It's part of it. But I'm saying it's a gradual thing. You don't wake up overnight and take a knee-jerk reaction to say you draw a line somewhere in the sand. If you cross here, no. Things develop. Your telecommunication systems to carry data and things also develop. And you make sure there's internet penetration, you know, going to the nooks and crannies. It's easy for some of us in this kind of room to reason and understand things in a certain way. But I don't know how many really remote parts of Nigeria you've been to. And there may be parts of Nigeria where all these things don't even function, where these internet-enabled data services are not. So I'm saying, yes, we need a cashless policy. Let's take a gradualist approach. And you know this cashless policy did not start today.
Yeah.
It's been there since 2010 or thereabout.
Yes, 2012.
Now, why did the CBN, Emefiele come on board, I think 2014 or thereabout? Why did he go to sleep on the cashless policy for the past 7-8 years and suddenly woke up from his slumber cleaned his eyes, looked left, looked right. I said, oh, I've slept on this cashless policy. We must implement it now before the heavens fall. So these are things that you gradually build up capacity in society. And over the years, you don't even need to force anybody. It becomes a way of life that if you start carrying billions or hundreds of millions, everybody will be looking at you as insane. And even stopping service providers or people who sell goods and services, over the years, you can't just bring 500,000 and the person says, I'm not touching the money. Please make a transfer. But you don't draw a line in the sand for this kind of decisions. You don't do that. It's not the way to go.
Yeah, taking into cognizance we have a lot of unbanked populace, especially in the rural areas. Yeah. Even here in Abuja, I have had instances where I'd want to pay a worker and he says, I don't have a bank account.
Good.
Yes.
It will also
in Abuja.
It will interest you. I went to buy watermelon on Friday. They didn't take note from me. The malam refused to take money from me. If it's not new note, he's not taking. And I needed to take watermelon. So it's actually biting hard on the people, particularly rural areas. And like a lawmaker would say, you just have to face out and not force out. So once again, I want to say thank you to our financial analyst, and we'll give you 1 more minute for your last conclusion and your call on the CBN governor, the lawmakers, and Nigerians. But let me ask this question. Do you foresee the CBN governor coming or appearing before the House with a summon given by the House? Because the question is, after all, they say they don't do, they back, they don't bite.
That decision is his to make, not mine. It's also up to the National Assembly to bite, because they have the constitutional power to bite. If they decide not to bite, that's their business. My honest and humble advice to Mr. Godwin Emefiele and his team is to hearken to the voice of reason. And for any Nigerian who loses his legitimate money and income and honest sweat due to the intransigence of the CBN, that person should have a right of action. And beyond the court system, people are free to associate, to mobilize, to picket a system that denies them of their legitimate income. 1 million or 2 can decide to sit in the front of the CBN. And let's see how things go. If you deny people of their legitimate livelihood and income.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. We will be speaking with Eze Onyekpere, financial analyst, and the question is 31st January deadline, to be or not to be. We are waiting and we look forward to see what will happen in the weeks to come, particularly on Tuesday. And Atunike has volunteered to go around ATMs in the Federal Capital Territory to bring us reports as to issues and happenings in the city center. So I know you wouldn't want to miss next week's episode of the program, News Hub Extra.
Yes, I'm already compiling the story. You know, these kind of human angles are always my thing.
Yes, but we need to start from you, from top to bottom. That's how much you can take on today's edition of the program, News Hub Extra. And from me, I will always ask and advise, please remember your permanent voter card, known as PVC, should be guided jealously. Do not sell your vote, do not sell your conscience, and do not be intimidated. And let's keep hope alive that the Central Bank of Nigeria will do something urgently for those who are finding it difficult to get monies, particularly to go to the markets today. And from Atinuke?
All right, we say bye. Stay tuned, same station, same time next week.